Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the third and final race of the weekend for the BRSCC Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. Two races already have taken place this weekend, both of them won by Adam Southgate, but we have a reversed grid race today, and this is how they start, with Gary Lawrence and Kevin Ludford on row 1, Nick Bartz and Nick Hull on row 2. Row 3 for Christian Young and Kevin Molyneux, double podium finishes so far this weekend, ahead of James Coleman and Adam Southgate, top 2 in both of the races so far. Then we have Andrew Porter, who is the only boxer that missed out on the grid reversal. Then we miss a few rows, and then we have our 924 contingent headed by Darren Constant, because there is a grid reversal within the 924s as well, ahead of Carl Rossin, Phil Waters and Gavin Johnson. They have a race win apiece in the 924 class so far this weekend, and they will be keen to try and add to that in this one if at all possible. We believe Carl Rossin might not be there, so we may possibly be down a 924, but we have our top 2 contenders from within the 924 class should both be there. So this is going to be fascinating to see. We've seen that Adam Southgate and James Coleman have had good pace when they've been out front. What about their ability to carve their way through the pack? Gary Lawrence at the front of the field, not in the car that he was supposed to be racing this weekend. It's been a long and troubled weekend for Gary, former race winner, of course, in the championship. And Kevin Ludford alongside him, making his debut for the season. So the back of the grid is lined up, the red lights are on. Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship is a go, and who is going to make the best of the starts from the front of the grid? Let's see. It looks like Gary Lawrence on the inside line should just about be able to hang on. Look at Nick Hull in the Union Flag car. He's coming through into second place by the looks of it, and Kevin Molyneux already is up there challenging for third. He's up the inside of the number 25 of Kevin Ludford, and he will go through. Ludford, in fact, steps well out of the way, and he will drop to the back of the field. So Lawrence leads the way, Hull second, Molyneux is there in third place. Fourth place looks like James Coleman. So interestingly, Coleman is ahead of Southgate still. Of course, he started ahead of Southgate, but he's been following Adam Southgate round for both of the 20-minute encounters that we've had this weekend, from start to finish, and hasn't been able to find a way through. But now he's in front. Can he lead the pair of them through to the front of the field and then fend him off for the race victory? There's the number 50 car of Christian Young, followed by Nick Bartz, who was in the thick of that impressive third place squabble that we had going on in the second race of the weekend earlier on this morning. Turn their way up through Duffus, though, back onto the pit straight again, looking back at the 924s. There they are, and it is going to be, I think it's Phil Waters ahead of Gavin Johnson still, and that looked like Carl Rossin, didn't it, number 41, who is there at Darren Constant there maybe that we're missing. I know we're missing one of the 924s, it's either Darren or Carl. Right, leads back through, and Nick Hull has the race lead, so Nick Hull has found a way up ahead of Gary Lawrence, and James Coleman's into third place, and now going for second place on the inside line here, down towards the inside for the right hand, but it's not the inside line for the left-hander at Clark's. Doesn't matter, he's got the move made already. So down through the left-hander they go. Into second is Coleman. He's now got 2 cars between himself and Adam Southgate. Gary Lawrence there defending third place from Kevin Molyneux. And they leaped their way over the curves, back down through the chicane, into the left-hand kink there, and into McIntyre's, this left-hander. There's the 50 car, as I said, of Christian Young trying to pick his way through, trying to get past the double race winner, in fact, quadruple race winner so far this season, Adam Southgate. He's won every race in the 2018 season so far. Ooh, James Coleman and Nick Hull side by side for the race lead. Coleman to the outside, Hull to the inside. Nick Hull will go for this. He's not going to roll over and let Coleman through. He is determined to get up there and take a race victory. We've seen how tough it can be to pass if the driver you're trying to pass is being stubborn about it and not letting you through easily. Down the back straight they go. Third place, by the way, is still Lawrence, but Molyneux's crawling all over him. Speaking of crawling all over him, James Coleman trying desperately to usurp Nick Hull from the race lead. Nick will defend the inside line into Clark's, but what about the exit speed? Is Coleman quicker off the corner? Yes, he is. Can he get to the inside? Yes, he can. Will he go through at the chicane? No, he won't, because he backs out of it. Nick Hull, as I suspected, getting his elbows out, gets all over the curb though, does Nick Hull, and so Coleman will get alongside him in towards the left-hander at McIntyre. He's up the inside, he can make the move stick. No, still not. Nick Hull says no. He's very late on the brakes there though, is Nick. It's not textbook driving this from Nick, but it's doing the job for the time being. The trouble is, can he keep this up for another 17 minutes, because that's how long's left. Lawrence is still third, Molyneux fourth, and Southgate not really making the progress. He's fifth, and he's now up alongside Molyneux and Lawrence, who are tripping each other up over the pit straight, side by side for the lead as well, and Coleman is good on the brakes here, and he sails round down the outside, and as long as he stops the car, which he does, he will move through into the race lead. So Coleman leads, Hull second, and Adam Southgate from 5th to 3rd in one fell swoop. So Southgate is on a mission. He saw, I think, that his sparring partner from the first 2 races was starting to make progress and get into the lead of the race, and so he thought I'd better do the same. Gets himself into 3rd. Molyneux and Lawrence there trading a bit of paint as they turn into Clark's, and there was a very smoky car, which I fear was Christian Young in the background. The smoke seems to have disappeared now, but coming out of the Taylor's hairpin, it didn't look brilliant, it has to be said. So down the hill, there is Lawrence. He's looking for a podium finish if possible. He was 4th in race 1, and then he was 10th in race 2. So Gary Lawrence not really having the weekend he'd have hoped for. Adam Southgate has been. He's had 2 race victories. He wants a 3rd. He's trying to get 2nd place off Nick Hull so that he can go after James Coleman for the lead. And just like that, he goes from 5th to 2nd in 1 lap. That is phenomenal stuff, that, from Adam Southgate. And now we watch the timing screens to see whether or not he can close in on the race leader. This, of course, is always the joy of reverse grid races, because the first third of the race or so is all about the quick drivers starting to make progress forwards, and then when they do get to the front, they're often not in quite the same order you'd expect them to be. Southgate has led Coleman all weekend long in qualifying and in the first 2 races, and now all of a sudden he has to try and find a way past James. Side by side here, and yes, I do fear that Christian Young was running into issues, because that was made to look very easy as Andrew Porter dived through on the inside, and we may well see that fit the car into the pit lane before the next couple of laps are over. Here are the 924s, still Phil Waters ahead of Gavin Johnson, and Carl Rossin staying with them actually this time, a little bit better than he has done in the first couple of races. Makes their way down the hill again, and Phil Waters, who was our winner in the 94 class yesterday in the first race, wasn't able to take victory in this morning's 2nd race of the weekend, as Gavin Johnson denied him with a good start mainly that put him in front, and then he led all the way through. It's been just as tricky to overtake in the 94 class as it has been in the boxes, but the boxes are putting on a good show in this one. Molyneux up alongside Gary Lawrence here for 3rd place. That's the inside line for Clark's, and you'd imagine Molyneux will go through. 2 3rd places already have gone the way of Kevin Molyneux this weekend, and he wants to make that a hat-trick, and Lawrence might even lose out to Nick Bartz as well as they go into the chicane. Nick Bartz on the outside, couldn't take the risk around the outside line there. Through the 2 left-handers at the bottom of the hill, they start the steep climb up through Duffer Stip, and over on the crest of the hill onto the pit straight they go. Also now they're starting to get caught by Andrew Porter, who was a non-finish receiver, not finished this morning in the first race. Andrew was 6th in race 1 yesterday, and he's now looking to get up the inside there of Nick Bartz to take 6th place away in this one. But Nick, we saw this from Nick in race 1, if there's someone up the inside of him into the hairpin, he's going to turn in regardless, and it's up to you to make your own arrangements, and Nick Bartz living up to that reputation in this race. Unfortunately, my prediction regarding Christian Young has come through. He's in pits and appears to be out of the race, which is a sad end to his Scottish adventure. Leaders, though, are getting ever closer together, because Adam Southgate has set the fastest lap of the race, 57.537. He was 8/10 behind Coleman last time around, but he was almost half a second quicker, and he'll be right with him by the end of this lap. The leading 94 cars are still right together. If anything, they're closer than they have been for some time. We've got Phil Waters now only a couple of Porsche 924 lengths clear of Gavin Johnson, and less than a Boxster length separates James Coleman and Adam Southgate, because Southgate was once again 3/10 faster on that time. But being 3/10 faster on any given lap doesn't necessarily mean that it's a guaranteed overtake. He has got 12 3/4 minutes left to try and do it. Nick Bartz there dicing away still with Andrew Porter. Andrew Porter was trying to get around the outside there and couldn't quite make it stick. Leaders though into the chicane for the 8th time. Look at the 924s, you don't know where to look, do you? They're all pairing off into these very close 2-way tussles throughout the field, and it is still Phil Waters leading in the 94 class, but Gavin Johnson, you sense, feels he's a little bit quicker at this stage of the race, but again, being quicker is one thing, getting past is something entirely different. Right, down towards the hairpin. Is Southgate close enough to have a lunge? I don't know what that bit of trim is that's come loose across the top of the windscreen there for James Coleman's car. I hope it's nothing important, probably just the rubber seal around the edge of the windscreen maybe, but we'll monitor that as the race goes on. It's certainly not slowing him down for the time being. And Adam Southgate can't find a way through. And now you see the problem is he's following Coleman. He's running Coleman's lap times. He was 3/10 quicker that time, but that's because he's got himself onto Coleman's tail. Now he can't get any closer and he can't go any quicker without actually making a move. So now it becomes all about this cat and mouse defence attack game. Coleman will be watching his mirrors, making sure he doesn't make a mistake, but also making sure he doesn't leave the door open into any of the obvious overtaking opportunities, the hairpin being the most obvious, of course. And as long as Coleman doesn't make a mistake, Southgate's not going to have an easy time getting through. As long as Southgate's on Coleman's tail, then Coleman isn't going to have an easy time holding on to the race lead, because Adam Southgate is a very, very quick driver, as we've seen all season long. Defends the inside line into the hairpin, and Southgate is not going to be able to get the switch back and the momentum down the straight towards Hislops and Clark's. So James Coleman with still that car length or so advantage. Then we've got the 94s, Gavin Johnson pushing on so hard that he's dislodged his front bumper, I think, which seems to be waving around every time he hits a bump or a curb, and you do that an awful lot here at Knockhill. Interestingly, you can see that these lead two Boxsters are not that far behind the 394 class cars that we have, so there is every possibility, in fact it's very likely, they'll start lapping them in the next lap or so. Into the pit lane, unfortunately, and potentially retirement has come front row sitter Kevin Ludford, but Kevin, you saw backing off really right from the start, not getting anyone's way, just wanting to have a clean race all to himself. Sadly, that race comes to an end at about half race distance, because we have 10 minutes left on the clock. We're overlapping again for the race lead. In fact, no, we can call that properly side by side this time. But with the outside line, Southgate was never going to get through. What about the switchback manoeuvre? This time he's executed it a little bit better. I think Coleman's still got his car in front, but does he dare move over to defend? Yes, he does. So Coleman in the 00 is proving tricky to pass. The next plan of action for Southgate is to try and use the traffic. Of course, as the race leader, you're the one who arrives on the scene to put the back markers a lap down first, and so you surprise them sometimes. They don't see you coming. Once the leader's gone through, the second place car, well, they're ready for him, and so they'll move out of your way a little bit more dutifully maybe. So we'll see how that affects things, not just in their battle at the front of the field, but also this one here for fifth place between Gary Lawrence and Andy Porter. There are the aforementioned 94s squabbling away still for the class leads, still Phil Waters in front. Phil Waters' car pretty stable actually around this undulating Knockhill circuit, which is an incredible challenge at the best of times, especially when you're running it in this reverse direction. Back into this tricky, almost a chicane section really, isn't it, there, through the right at Hislops and the left at Clark's. Plunge downhill right at open curb for Phil Waters. Gavin Johnson a little bit more circumspect, and we can see that the overall race leaders are not far behind at all now, so they're lapping now within a tenth of a second of each other, of course, because they are running nose to tail. Southgate can't go any quicker than Coleman because he's stuck behind him, but Coleman is not slow, and this is the thing, even when Southgate was in front in the first two races, he couldn't really escape until maybe traffic started to play a part. So for now, Southgate is going to have to really be quite careful about how he does this and try and think outside the box almost. He knows that the inside line's always going to be defended down into the hairpin, so is there anywhere else he can try it? Hard on the brakes, the aerodynamic front splitter and rear wing doing their job to help slow the cars down. You can brake that a little bit later than you could before. They've added these aerodynamic aids to the race boxers at the start of last season. Drivers have all really enjoyed them. Now then, traffic, and they're going to catch it at the worst part of the circuit, into Clark's, and then on the run into the chicane, and Coleman could get held up here. Let's see, he doesn't want to be following them through the chicane. He flashes the headlights, but Gavin Johnson, is he going to turn into the chicane? No, Coleman gave him no choice, launched up the inside. Southgate comes with him. Of course, that separates the 924 battle slightly. He can't get past Waters though, and so he's not under immediate pressure from Southgate, but this could be Southgate's opportunity, because Coleman's going to have to run side by side with Waters through Duffus, and we've seen this end in tears a few times. Coleman also had to take a tight line. They used an awful lot of curb, and in the end, it is Coleman who will gain the advantage and pull out actually 4/10 of a second on Southgate that time around, and just like magic, the 94s are right back together again, so neither of them lost any time in all of that. Have to put their battle temporarily on ice as the quicker cars come through, and of course they've got the rest of the race boxers now also bearing down on them. About 9 seconds further back in third is Nick Pull, Kevin Molyneux in fourth, and then Gary Lawrence here in fifth. And he's got 3 abreast into the hairpin as Nick Bartz goes around the outside of Nick Porter, gets elbowed out wide. Porter's sideways, runs out wide. Bartz will get him on the exit instead then, and looks like there might be fluid. Yeah, that's fluid coming out of the back of the white and black car at the back end of this trio, I think. Nick Porter, the smoke. Is there fluid being dropped? I think there might be. We'll try and get a look at that at some point. There is Carl Rossin, who's about to go a lap down to these guys. But is there fluid being dropped on the circuit? Because if there is, that could really cause some dramas. Leaders back over the hill though, onto the 14th lap of the race. Fastest lap set by Adam Southgate, and this time he arrives on the tail of James Coleman with quite a bit of momentum, but just can't go anywhere with it. Takes the wide line into the hairpin, the tight line out. Again, it's not going to get him alongside though. Fascinating racing this between the two of them, because Coleman knows that the slightest slip up, and I mean literally a wheel on the grass somewhere or a touch too much apex curb somewhere, and Southgate will be through in a flash. He has to drive wheel perfect for the next 5 3/4 minutes to keep the championship leader, the dominant championship leader at bay. But that is proving to be a challenge, but a challenge that Coleman seems up to. Southgate's car actually now seems to be the one that's moving around the most as they slip their way through Butchers and into McIntyre's. Here's this battle going on behind, so we've still got Gary Lawrence in 5th. Nick Bartz is now 6th. Nick Porter still going in 6th, so if he is dropping fluid, first of all, it's not affecting his race, but also it doesn't appear to be leaving a slippery surface on the track. So Nick Porter can't see smoke, so of course that could mean that the problem's remedied itself. It could also mean that whatever fluid was leaking has now run out. Oh, Nick Bartz, what happened there? Nick Bartz suddenly now. Nick Bartz had a problem there, I think. The car got sideways and hasn't. Yeah, he's dropped down a place where he's missed gear. The smoke is back on Nick Porter's car now, but something happened to Nick Bartz there, and he lost that 6th position to Nick Porter. He was back into the chicane once again. Oh, that was an adventurous line for James Coleman. Now, you need to be careful doing that, because the radiators in Porsches are notoriously susceptible to damage, either by running into the back of someone or by doing just that, running over a curb. And look at this again, the car literally takes off. He just missed that first apex slightly, launched over the sausage curb, and just sort of comes down over the grass where you can see, well, there is no grass there because everyone else has done that at some point over the weekend, and it always looks spectacular. So through the hairpin at the start of another lap, lap 17 begins, and has Southgate maybe seen that little mistake from Coleman and sensed blood in the water? 4 minutes still to go, and is he sensing that maybe Coleman is starting to get a bit scrappy, make a few mistakes? The closer Southgate gets, the more pressure he applies, the more chance there is that maybe Coleman could make another mistake. Here we go into the chicane again. I bet Coleman's a bit neater through here this time, and yes, he is. Look at that, much neater and much slower, but he knows that the next sequence of corners it's almost impossible to overtake, so it doesn't look as though Adam Southgate is going to be able to take advantage of that. Nick Bartz is in, so there was some sort of an issue with 169 car, although it now heads back, possibly back into Park Fermi. This is a replay, meanwhile, of Nick Porter launching up the inside of Gary Lawrence, had no hope of making the corner, and Gary went straight back through. But that smoke that's coming out of the back of Nick Porter's car, it does seem to be intermittent, doesn't it? It comes and it goes. Leaders put a lap on Nick Bartz, who didn't head back into Park Fermi. He actually headed back onto the track, so that's good news. He's got him running back on the circuit again, so we've only lost 2 cars, Christian Young and Kevin Ludford, earlier on. 3 minutes still to go. What can Southgate do? So far, James Coleman has had answers to all the questions asked of him by the number 45 car in 2nd place. So too, Gary Lawrence has done a sterling job to hold on to this 5th place from a racy Nick Porter. Oh, now there's a lot of fluid coming out of the back of the car there. So what is that though? Where is it coming from? It's hard to tell really, isn't it? But that was a fairly substantial amount of liquid. And it's coming out from both sides, which is interesting. We only have 2.5 minutes to go, so I suppose it's in his interest to try and limp home. But if the clerk of the course spots that, there wouldn't be at all surprised to see him get pulled into the pit lane to get it fixed. leaders back through the hairpin, and you can see Nick Barnes actually keeping pace with them now that he's back out on circuit. So Nick's going to be one to watch, I think, as the season goes on, to see if he can get maybe a couple of podium finishes himself. Certainly seems to have good pace here. Look at the inside for Southgate. Coleman moved over to cover at the last second. It's always dangerous that, but Coleman's very slow off the corner, and around the outside goes Adam Southgate. This will be the move of the day if it works. Side by side into the chicane, and Adam has to back out of it. Gets all out of shape in doing so, but that, well, I don't know what happened there. Coleman, I think, was trying maybe to cover off the switchback manoeuvre from Southgate, because Coleman went into the corner on a really tight line and then would have expected to run wide on the exit. So I think he was just making absolutely sure that he didn't run wide on the exit and that Southgate didn't get the switchback, but in doing so he left the outside lane wide open. So that nearly worked for Southgate. 2 more laps to go, so he'll register that in his mind now as another instance that Coleman has maybe made a bit of a mistake that Southgate could have taken advantage of, and he will try and force another mistake out of him. This is for 3rd place, and that's Nick Hull going back ahead of Kevin Molyneux, I believe. Molyneux tries to fight back on the exit of the corner, but good stuff this from Nick Hull, who is looking to try and get himself back on the podium. Doesn't happen with quite the regularity that he might like, but he's got Molyneux fighting back. Don't make contact here. That was close through the right-hander at Hislops. He was a bit wide on the exit, does Nick Hull, but he gathers it all together and into the chicane. Whoa, and Molyneux got a wheel on the curb there, and straight over the grass he goes. We whip round to see that he's actually half spun it, so as not to have to try through the gravel trap. But Kevin Molyneux there with, well, and he's going to leave even more mud and dirt and grass all over the track, and all over the side of his car as well. Last lap begins then for James Coleman and Adam Southgate, and you sense that if Southgate was going to do something about Coleman, he may well have done it by now, and he hasn't. So does that mean that Coleman has got the better of him, or is Southgate keeping something up his sleeve for the last lap? He's certainly still going for it. You can see with the attitude of the car there as it turned through Hislops and Clarks. He's going to have a go if an opportunity presents itself, but will the opportunity present itself? Because we're now heading into the technical second half of the lap, where it is difficult to find a way through. Onto the brakes, into the left-hander they go, and then it's the acceleration up the hill, and I think that James Coleman is going to do enough to hang on to take not only his first win of the season, but the first win for someone not called Adam Southgate, because Adam Southgate has won the first 4 races of the year, but James Coleman is victorious in round number 5 of the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. Adam Southgate comes home in second, and then we wait and we wait and we wait, because the next car across the line is Nick Bartz, who is 7th and 1 lap down. Then we have Carl Rossin, who is 3rd in the 924s, so possibly the next car of note that will come across the line is this one, and that's Phil Waters, who is looking set to actually take a fairly comfortable victory in the 924 class, because Gavin Johnson was not really able to match his pace as the race went on. And so despite a wayward line through the final corner, it is going to be victory in the 94 class for the 2nd time this weekend for Phil Waters. He won yesterday, wins again even today, and Gavin Johnson comes home in 2nd place. So an entertaining race, that one, and James Coleman will be really pleased to have finally knocked Adam Southgate, the championship leader, off his perch. All of those race wins to kickstart the season for Southgate, and Coleman proving what we all knew, which is that he had the pace to fight for race victories and to take race victories, but maybe just track position was what he needed, because once he was in front of Southgate, Southgate could not pass him. And of course, in the early 2 races, when Coleman was behind Southgate, he couldn't pass him either. So overtaking we knew would be tricky around Knockhill, but we've seen some brilliant moves down at the hairpin, both on the inside and the outside. And so great racing all round. Here's confirmation of the result then. James Coleman takes the victory by just over a quarter of a second from Adam Southgate in 2nd. Nick Hull 3rd, Kevin Molyneux 4th, Gary Lawrence 5th, and Nick Porter 6th, despite that fluid coming out of the car. Nick Bartz was 7th, despite a pit stop, and then we have the 924s. Phil Waters, Gavin Johnson and Carl Rossin, the top 3 in the 924s. Sadly, we lost Kevin Ludford and we lost Christian Young fairly early on in the race. So good stuff from the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. The cars make their way down into Parc Fermé. Bryn will hopefully be able to have a chat with our race winner. Their next round is on the 2nd and 3rd of June at Cadwell Park. Then they go to Rockingham, and then they're back with us on the TCR package at Castle Coombe in July, and also at the end of the year at Donington Park. So Southgate eager to get out of the car there. I think it will be rather warm there now with the vastly increasing ambient temperatures. And he will be keen to have a chat with James Coleman, our race victor, as are we. And yes, I think the general discussion there is, well, I can get past you, mate. And James says, good, because that means we'll have won the race, and finally gets himself a race victory. A souvenir there for the marshals. That's a rear bumper, I think, off Kevin Molyneux's car when he had that rotation up at the chicane. James Coleman assesses the front end of his car, and I don't think there's any cause for concern, because he led that one not quite from start to finish, but as soon as he made his way through from that reverse grid. But he's got the helmet off now, which means that we can hand over to Bryn down in Parc Fermé to have a chat.
Thanks very much there, Andy. Yeah, I'm here with race winner. Well done, James. That was a race and a half. You were pushed the entire way by Adam.
Yeah, Adam ran a great race. We both started on the back row. I knew it wouldn't be long till we got through. I was just hoping I got through before Adam, because I've been stuck behind him all weekend. So really pleased with that. Yeah, really pleased coming from the back to the front here.
Yeah, it's a very, very warm day as well inside that car, isn't it? The temperatures have been great, but that's good for you. Nice conditions, reliable conditions as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I did do a lot of testing here in the rain. So when it rained this morning, I was thinking that for race 2, a good chance for me to get first, but it stayed dry, so I couldn't get past.
Now, we were watching you going on that start-finish straight, and every time I looked at you, you seemed to have Adam, it was all over you. He was left, right, every single way, but you didn't let him through, and that was the crucial part.
It's quite easy to defend here. There's probably 2 or 3 places you can get past, so you just have to move over a little bit, and he's not going to go around the outside, so it was all under control.
All in all, pretty happy with your trip to Knockhill?
I'd love to hear. I can't wait to get back.
James, well done.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Bryn, for keeping us up to date with everything going on down in Parc Fermé. Here are the highlights of the race. It was Gary Lawrence who led early on, ahead of Nick Hull and Kevin Molyneux, but it wasn't long before the front runners from the first 2 races made their presence felt. Hull took the lead initially, but James Coleman was able to work his way through into second, and then pulled off a stunning outbraking manoeuvre around the outside into the hairpin to take over the race lead. Hull settled into second, but Southgate was on a mission, and he was soon into second place, passing 3 cars within the space of a lap. Then he latched onto the tail of the leader, but could not find a way through, despite the odd drama along the way for Coleman. Traffic played a part initially, making sure that Coleman wasn't able to make any sort of an escape, and then this moment when Coleman very nearly threw it all away at the chicane, he just about managed to hang on. Southgate tried and tried, and he got his nose in front at one point into the chicane, but decided discretion was the better part of valour and backed out of what was a potentially risky manoeuvre. And that really was that. James Coleman was able to get his elbows out, defend where he needed to for the remaining part of the race, and he came home a winner in round 5 of the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. Well, great racing from the Porsches here this weekend at Knockhill. Been great to have them as part of the TCR UK package. As I said, they'll be back with us again later on at Castle Coombe, which is another one of those really quirky circuits, old school circuits that the drivers love so much, and us fans also enjoy so much. One of the great things about watching the Porsches here, of course, they are proper race cars, aren't they? Low sprung, stiff suspension, aerodynamic parts on them as well. I mean, the corner speeds are high, but you really see them moving on the bumps, and when they stand on the brakes into the hairpin. We've had some cracking footage there all weekend long of the cars right on the limit. So we look forward to having them back with us a little bit later on. The drivers there down in Parc Fermé, who I'm hoping we're going to be able to see make their way up onto the podium. We'll have some sort of a presence on the podium for the 924 class, as well as our overall top 3, of course. And the drivers make their way over. So if there's one thing I've learned from my time working in motorsport, is that once those drivers get into Parc Fermé post-race and they start chatting, it takes an awfully long time for anything else to happen, because they've all got stories to swap. And of course, that one being a reverse grid race, and it's difficult sometimes when you're in the cars to keep track of what everyone else is doing. And we saw Adam Southgate run straight over to James Coleman, and they started discussing their race, and they all want to talk to each other, they all want to share their stories. but we want to see them on the podium because it's the final time they'll be on the podium this weekend. It's been a busy weekend's work. Lots of track time for the Toyota Tires Porsche Championship, of course. 3 races, each of 20 minutes in duration. That's an hour straight away, plus their 20-minute qualifying session, and some of them will have been out testing in the week as well. So they'll have had a lot of track time this weekend. I'm sure they've all really enjoyed it, driving this ultra demanding Knockhill anti-clockwise circuit in these cars is a joy, I'm sure. So it doesn't look as though the drivers are in any particular rush to make their way to the podium, so we'll leave things there, I think. Thank you very much for joining us for our second meeting of the year for the Toyota Tires Porsche Championship. Until next time, it's goodbye. So the drivers make their way up onto the podium then at the end of a long, hard weekend of racing here at Knockhill. The Toyota Tires Porsche Championship has provided plenty of thrills and spills. And there we have our third place finisher, Nick Hull. Second place, Adam Southgate there. Can't be too dissatisfied with the second place trophy after 2 race wins, but it's the first win of the season for James Coleman, and he will make his way, after the handshakes have been shared all round, onto the top step of the podium, the winner's trophy in hand. And what a photo opportunity that is. Adam Southgate, most definitely aware that he's on telly this weekend. He's been great value for money as Adam, with 2 great race victories and a second place. He will extend his championship lead, and he will be very happy with his weekend's work here at Knockhill.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
Proud of yourself. You can just stand up for that. Keep on the sideline.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's taken us a little while to get here, but we are ready to get our final race of the day underway, and this is a rerun, essentially, of the race that never was earlier on this afternoon, round number 6 of the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. We had a red flag after just one lap, and so the decision was taken to postpone the race so as not to delay the rest of the timetable and slot the race in at the end. And in a way, that's worked out quite well, because I think we've got the best of the conditions now. It is glorious sunshine, there's not a cloud in the sky. This is the weather we enjoyed all day yesterday and that we really weren't expecting to enjoy today, but here it is, and we're very much looking forward to this. So we've had 2 races already this weekend. Matt Ranguido and Niall Murray, the 2 winners. They'll both be out on the grid again for this one, hoping to make up for dramas in the initial start of this race, where actually both of them fell by the wayside because of the fact that this is a complete rerun of the race. They've both been allowed to retake their original grid positions. Luke Cooper it is who has the pole position, alongside Michael Eastwell on row 1, Nico Gruber and Jamie Thorburn on row 2, ahead of Neil McLennan and Niall Murray on the 3rd row. Row 4 for Rory Smith and Josh Smith, row 5 Carter Williams and Seb Melrose, and then row 6 for Jack Wolfenden and James Clark. Row 7 will be Sebastian Job and Vincent J, row 8 Fraser Gray and Davian Maloney even, row 9 for Richard Morris and John Brown. Row 10, one to watch for, I reckon, Ross Martin. Now, I forget what happened to Ross in the early race. He didn't finish. Yes, he went off, didn't he, and brought about the early end of race 2. He's quick, though, so number 11, Ross Martin, the red car towards back of the field, one to watch for. He's alongside Fergus Payton on row 10. Row 11, Matt Ranguido, the race 1 winner, starting 21st, having not finished the previous race, and he should be alongside Hugo Bentley-Ellis, but he is a non-starter. And Joey Foster at the back, because there was an amended result after the second race earlier on, saying that Joey Foster was disqualified from the race for driving in a manner incompatible with general safety. So a driving standards issue of some sort for that man there, Joey Foster. But the Formula Ford 1600 legend that is Joey Foster will be very much looking to try and work his way up the order. So 3 cars towards the back, 11, 27 and 155, Ross Martin, Matt Ranguido and Joey Foster, we will keep a keen eye on over the course of this final 15-minute race of the day. The red lights are on and we are about to go racing for round 6 of the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship. Away we go. Who gets down to the first corner first? Well, it's uncontested. Look at the start for Luke Cooper. He's already well clear of Michael Eastwell in second place. Up the inside is coming, I think, Jamie Thorburn. Round the outside is going Neil McLennan, though, and Neil McLennan will get his way into 3rd place. Brilliant stuff from 5th on the grid, but I think he was about 6th or 7th when they hit the brakes, but then he didn't hit the brakes until much later than everyone else, and so he sails through into 3rd, and that's the second of the white and blue cars that shot there, now trying to get past Michael Eastwell for 2nd position. Luke Cooper trying to make good his escape, and he runs a bit wide there through Clark's, then it's a bit scrappy for Eastwell as they all arrive at the chicane together, and McLennan again round the outside. What a move! But Neil McLennan round the outside of the chicane. That is bravery in bucket loads. Brilliant stuff from Neil McLennan, and he's through into 2nd. So the man on a mission, well and truly, is Neil McLennan, and look, he's already attacking for the race lead, and he'll be in the slipstream down the back straight. He'll pull alongside, he'll go to the outside, but he doesn't mind going to the outside. He's already made all of his moves on this first lap on the outside line, including at the chicane, which is something I never thought I'd see. He gets his nose ahead under braking, he gets almost the full car in front. Don't turn in, don't lock wheels, they just about avoid contact. They're still side by side. Brilliant racing. Luke Cooper leaves in plenty of room on the exit of the corner, and they are still wheel to wheel. It's side by side for 3rd behind them as well, but we'll focus on the leaders for now, because it looks as though Neil McLennan has done it. He's got the race lead away. Down to 2nd for Luke Cooper, but then McLennan runs wide. Cooper back alongside, but Luke didn't fancy the outside of the chicane, so he backs out of it. So McLennan from Cooper from Eastwell is your top 3. I think that is still going to be Jamie Thorburn 4th, but how much longer? Because Niall Murray's up the inside of him. Oh, they do, I think, bang wheels slightly there as they turn through the left-hander at McIntyre's and back up the hill, but Thorburn hangs on to 4th. That's given the top 3 a slight break, though, so across the line they will come, and who makes the move down towards the hairpin this time? Eastwell has no pressure from behind, so he can take this outside line, but they may almost be 3 abreast, because Cooper's trying to go to the outside as well, and he does it. Luke Cooper, can he get the car stopped? Yes, he can. Just runs a bit wide, but Luke Cooper gets through, and Niall Murray is off. Niall Murray's slowing, in trouble. What is the problem for Niall Murray? He carries on, or does he? No, the car slows again. So Niall Murray, the championship leader, let's not forget, who was caught up in that red flag inducing incident at the first attempt to start this race, was able to take the start anyway because it was a rerun, he was sixth on the grid, but his race appears to be done. Luke Cooper airborne through the chicane, a fantastic shot that is through the chicane, but Neil McLennan's right there with him, all over the gearbox of the number 6 car as it turns through and back up the hill, and we have a 6-car breakaway because it's Cooper that leads, McLennan second, Eastwell third, Thorburn is there in fourth, fifth place was Murray. It's now, I think, actually going to be the number 0 car of Josh Smith. Yes, it is, ahead of Nico Gruber. Side by side again, McLennan to the outside, Cooper to the inside, last of the late breakers, and these are two of the latest breakers in the field, but it's a lovely switchback manoeuvre this time for Neil McLennan that might just get him back alongside, down towards Hislops and Clark's. Can he get alongside? I don't think he can, and so Cooper gets his car in front. Will he hold on to the position into the corner? I think he will, wait for him to appear inside McLennan. Oh, McLennan off in the dirt. Eastwell gets up the inside and Thorburn goes up the inside of him. Free arrest into the chicane will not work. Thorburn backs out of it. Eastwell eventually backs out of it, but look at the lead that's given Luke Cooper. He is escaping now from McLennan still second, then Eastwell, Thorburn, Smith, Gruber, and well, forget 6-car breakaway, it's the whole field together again. That is Niall Murray. Now that water on the road, I don't think has come from the car. They're looking at suspension. There's the issue there. That water was there already, but some sort of suspension issue, possibly contact, which you would be surprised at since he started in the midfield. Right, lead us back into the hairpin again. Neil McLennan continuing to defend this second place, but Luke Cooper is nearly a second clear. Ross Martin, by the way, who I said was one to watch for, the red number 11 car, just set the fastest lap of the race at 53.3. He's just behind this group of cars, and he's already on the fringes of the top 10. There he is, that red car just a bit detached from that group. He is really charging through. The other red car just behind him is Matt Guido, the race 1 winner, and Joey Foster behind him. So those 3 quick cars are together. Look at Neil McLennan through the chicane. I mean, that is some of the most spectacular driving we've seen all day long, but he knows he has to push now, because usually when you're in a big long train of cars like the rest of the field are, you can rely on the slipstream down the pit straight to keep you in touch with the cars in front. But once you lose that slipstream, you have to do the hard work through the corners to catch back up and get the toe back. It's not helping the fact that he's having to defend here from Michael Eastwell. We've got Josh Smith defending from Nico Gruber behind as well. Nico to the outside there in the 77 car. That could open the door potentially for the 150 car of Carter Williams to join in. See how that one sorts itself out. The lead gap, incidentally, came down by 5/1000ths of a second because Cooper and McLennan set almost identical lap times. Matt Garrido, though, in car number 27, has nicked the fastest lap back away from Ross Martin, who incidentally is into the top 10 now. Ross Martin into 10th position. Guido is 12th and Foster 13th, so it is Martin who's making the progress. I saw him very sideways in the background then. Here in one long, high-speed, exhilarating train of cars. I'd say that lead gap is coming back down, though. I think that by the end of this straight, McLennan will be back with Cooper again. Let's see. Over the crest of the hill they come. There is Cooper, McLennan, Eastwell, quicker than you can say them. 1, 2, 3 across the line. And yes, the gap comes down from 9/10 to 3/10, so forget the timing screen. It's irrelevant. They're back with each other again. Cooper not able to escape, and that could be telling. Changing going on behind, maybe. No, Nico Gruber hangs on to his position there from Carter Williams, who's really improved as the weekend's gone on. That's the dark green car just behind these two. Next to Josh Smith and Nico Gruber fighting over 5th, and you can see the top 4 are making a break now, so it's in their best interests almost to work together, really. Matt Guido there makes a move in the background. That was at the expense of Sebastian Melrose, I think, so that puts Matt Guido into the top 10 as well. Oh no, but what's happened there? That's McLennan's been off at the chicane and through into no, he holds on to second place. Someone was on the grass. I think it was McLennan. Maybe we'll get a replay of that. But I glanced at the timing screen. Here we go, right on cue. He was going around the outside of Cooper and ran out of road. Thank you for the replay. And Cooper sailed straight back through to the race lead. It's always the way in Formula 4 1600 racing. You daren't take your eyes off the action for a microsecond because something will happen. It nearly happened down to the hairpin because it was side by side briefly for the lead before McLennan found a gap back in line. But here come those quick cars from the back. Ross Martin is now 7th, Matt Guido is now 8th. They're coming, and they could still fight for the race victory here because nobody is escaping at the head of the field. The 2 red cars closing in on the lead pack are the 2 to watch for. They're the fastest cars on the track quite comfortably. They're just carving their way through and not getting bogged down battling with people. They're just catching and passing, and they're making electrifying progress through the field. We've still got 8 minutes to go, so over half the race remains. Don't count one of them out to be on the podium, possibly even on the top step. Luke Cooper actually had a race very much like that at Silverstone, where he came from way back in the field to win the second race of the weekend at Silverstone with a penultimate lap move. We could be in for some similar antics in this one. McLennan makes his customary move to the outside, under braking into the hairpin, but you'd imagine Cooper will have that covered. Here comes Ross Martin in the background. He's up the inside in the red car. He's going to go past Nico Gruber here. Another place gain for Ross Martin. Can Matt Rangarino follow him through? Not sure he had quite enough momentum out onto the straight into his lot, where he is trying to get the overlap. No, can't do it, so they'll split by one car for now. But Matt Rangarino has already made some moves into this corner in this race. He's going for another. He makes another. Brilliant stuff from Ross Martin and Matt Rangarino. They're leaving Joe Foster behind now. Foster's actually down in 12th, and his progress has stagnated. The lead group now then is, well, how many cars? Well over 10 cars, I think, isn't it? The top 10 covered by absolutely nothing. McLennan looking scrappy again there, 2 wheels in the dirt out of McIntyre's. Michael Eastwell will be looking for his first podium finish of the year as well, if at all possible. But don't count out Jamie Thorburn as they scatter onto the straight, and McLennan this time is having to defend, but Eastwell is pushing him, bump drafting in Formula Ford racing. That's new with me, but that seemed effective for McLennan because he's been able to hold on to second. But here comes Thorburn round the outside for third place. He'll have the speed and the momentum off the corner, and he demotes Eastwell off the podium. Here comes Ross Martin, weaving to the left, weaving to the right, back to the left again, trying to find a way past Josh Smith, and he's got Matt Rangarino right there with him too. Watch for the move on the brakes into the left-hander, can't do it. Smith covers it off. Matt Rangarino all out of shape as he tries to get the switch back up the inside of Ross Martin. The leaders make their way back into the chicane. Still, Luke Cooper resisting the pressure. We've got a car on the grass there to the right. We'll pick up on that in a moment, which the leaders are sailing through, and they don't really care about what everyone else is doing. They are entirely focused on their race, on their battle, on that car in front of them that they want to find a way past. That was Matt Rangarino on the curb there. This might explain possibly who our spinner was, does it? Let's see. This, well, I couldn't quite catch the number there. The car had already been off and was recovering, but it'll be whoever's at the bottom of the timing screen, I suppose, which I think might possibly be Fergus Payton, but we'll confirm that in a moment or two. 5.5 minutes still to go. Leaders are heading back down into Clark's once more to backmark, which is something we don't often hear in Formula Ford racing, but clearly someone who's had a drama and has fallen way behind. McLennan really is pushing Luke Cooper hard, and Luke is getting more and more sideways through that roller coaster section over the chicane and down the hill, and you sense that maybe the mistake might be coming. Luke Cooper doesn't make many mistakes, but if he were to make one, then that would be music to ears of the whole sea of cars behind. Across the line, they're about to go again. Ross Martin and Matt Rangarino are now 6th and 7th, by the way, so they're kind of side by side in the background. The leaders are also thinking about going side by side, and it's a single file. So what's going on with the cars behind? Let's see. It is Matt in front. So Matt Rangarino's got himself in front of Ross Martin into 6th place, but they've got to negotiate the back marker, and then they've got just over 4.5 minutes to try and bridge the gap to the lead group and get past them. So that podium is not going to be easy, but I think it's still possible. Out of Clark's, back into the chicane again. Fencing line into the chicane for Luke Cooper. He's taking no chances, but that's what makes him get sideways, because he's going in on such a tight line, but still trying to carry the speed through the chicane, and he's hanging on to the limit of adhesion there, and just about getting away with it every time for now. 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes to go. Back onto the pit straight we go. 12 laps will be in the books. And what of the progress of Matt Rangarino? He was 9/10 behind this group. He is now 8/10 behind, and we've got him changing nearly on there for third, as Eastwell was up the inside of Thorburn. And, well, all of a sudden that 7/10 of a second has disappeared. Matt Rangarino and Ross Martin are right with them now. And what further progress can they make? Of course, they're getting now towards the sharp end of the field. Every overtake becomes increasingly hard now as you start finding the tougher nuts to crack, to quote the legendary Murray Walker. And they're not going to have it easy to get onto the podium. Go for it though, I'm sure, because going for it is in the DNA of every Formula Ford 1600 racer. This is what the racing is like. No matter what circuit we're at, what the weather's like, it doesn't matter what the grid was, it doesn't matter about anything. They will always provide some of the closest racing you'll see anywhere in the world, and that's a fact. Across the line we go, side by side again for the lead. Can McLennan do it this time? He's going to have his nose ahead as they cross the line. Hard on the brakes though. Whose nose dips first? It's going to be Cooper that holds on. Behind though, we've got Rory get this right in a moment, Ross Martin in the gravel coming out of the hairpin, because he had briefly got himself ahead of Matt Rangarino, was challenging Josh Smith for 5th. Matt Rangarino is now hitting the back of Josh Smith as they go down the straight, but it's Matt Rangarino who's now into 5th place, and it's Josh Smith who's struggling, and Luke Cooper, there's the mistake, finally! Luke Cooper slips wide at Clark's, and slipping into the lead is Neil McLennan. He goes through, and now he tries to make good his escape, whilst Cooper is defending from Thorburn behind. Eastwell there in 4th place, but of course now Cooper will get the slipstream. Oh, just skated wide through the corner, a bit too much speed taken into Clark's, and then he had to step the tail of the car out to avoid running into the gravel trap on corner exit, and it was a good save from Luke Cooper, but it's cost him the race lead. He's now going about trying to get it back though, as they hit the brakes down towards the hairpin once again. Locking up of brakes there from McLennan on the inside. Oh, side by side between Rangarino and Ross Martin behind as well. They're getting their elbows out as they make their way down the straight towards Hislop and Clark's for the 15th time of asking. 2 minutes on the clock, and can Luke Cooper get this race lead back? Through the right, through the left, this train of cars is growing rather than shrinking as the race goes on. We've now got the top, well, it is the top 10. It's everyone from McLennan in the lead down to Joey Foster in 10th place, separated by 2.7 seconds. That's remarkable. Into McIntyre's once again, and we're going to have time for 2 more laps. So 2 more laps for Luke Cooper to find his way through into the race lead, back through into the race lead that he's held pretty much all race long. Can he get back ahead? Let's find out. Over the hill, he's not really close enough this time, I don't think. And McLennan doesn't feel the need to defend though. Is that going to be a mistake? Doesn't look like it. Lots of jinking and jostling going on behind. Matt Rangarino's at the inside of Michael Eastwell. That's for 4th position, wheel to wheel on the exit. It looks like Eastwell had the better speed off the corner, but Matt Rangarino's tenacious, and he wants a podium, and he sees a chance because he's got the inside line into his favoured corner, which is Clark's. He's made so many good moves here all race long, and Matt Rangarino goes into 4th position. Doesn't run too wide on the exit either, so he hangs on to the spot. He's got a lap and a half to try and get himself onto the podium. If he can, it'll be at the expense, you'd imagine, of Jamie Thorburn, who's just slipping slightly back from the leading duo. Turn their way back up towards the top end of the circuit. Oh, big shunt further back, and that, I'm afraid, could be a race stoppage. I'm not sure who that is, but that almost certainly will mean an early end to the race. And we'll watch the monitors with interest. The cars making their way up across the start-finish line again, down in towards the area where the incident has happened. Red flag's out, no choice but to do that, and the race is over. Well, a dramatic end to proceedings there. It's a shame, it's robbed us of our grandstand finish, but our thoughts with the driver involved. That was a fairly hefty incident down at the hairpin. The marshals will be on the case straight away to ensure driver safety and deal with the situation. But that is the race over, and so Neil McLennan, with a timely move as it happens, will win round 6 of the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship. Luke Cooper will be second. Jamie Thorburn will be third. Matt Rangarino just ran out of time to get himself onto the podium. Michael Eastwell will be 5th, Ross Martin 6th, then Josh Smith, Nico Gruber, Joey Foster and Carter Williams rounding out the top 10. So the cars will make their way back to the Parc Fermé assembly area, and Bryn will be there to chat with our race winner. That was Niall Murray, I think, driving past, who didn't take part in that race, really. Finished 7 laps down. But into the pit lane they go, and I've just heard some very good news in my ear, which is that the driver concerned is out of the car under his own steam. So driver conscious, more or less okay, battered and bruised, and facing a hefty repair bill. The driver is out of the car, so I don't know who it was, unfortunately, because by the time it appeared in sight, there wasn't much left of it, but it was a scary accident down there. Car number 3, David Maloney, we believe, is who it was, who we saw in the gravel trap in one of the early races as well. But good to know, and there is confirmation. David Maloney climbing under his own steam into the ambulance. Thank goodness for that. Cars can be fixed, but people are harder to fix. Now, this is what happened. 177 he's racing with, Fraser Gray. Oh, that has all the hallmarks of a brake failure going into the hairpin, and it digs into the gravel, it digs in again, but you can see that the roll hoop behind the driver does its job, so that the driver's head never comes into contact with the ground, and the safety shell around the Formula Ford 1600 machine is doing its job. it's a very battered Oldfields Autos car, but thankfully David Maloney appears to have escaped none the worse for wear. That's the best news we could have heard, so good stuff there, and thanks for keeping me posted about that, because that was a scary moment as that car appeared airborne into sight. And the marshals, well, thankfully it's the last race of the day, so they can take their time getting that car out of the way, but you can see the debris that it's left scattered across the track down at the hairpin. There was no option but to stop the race, and that is the end of proceedings here at Knockhill. A suitably dramatic end to what's been a dramatic weekend of racing here at Knockhill. Slightly different. The drivers are in the Parc Ferme area though, and Bryn will be there very shortly to have a word with our race winner.
Well, Neil, that was another great fight out there, but another very tricky race.
No, thank you very, very much. Absolutely delighted with this whole weekend. Can't thank Cliff Dempsey enough for all the great work in the car and the rest of the team too. It's just been absolutely fantastic. To get a third, a second and a first is just, yeah, absolutely delighted.
It wasn't that easy though. You did have to fight your way through. You had to hold off for quite a while as well. I was looking at the timing screens as well. There was 2/10 for a while, then there was nothing in it, and then it was back to 2/10.
Yeah, no, Luke did such a good job there. Well done to him, and well done to Jamie too. It's been so close from race one. It's just been absolutely fantastic. So delighted.
So pretty happy with your trip to Knockhill.
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic. Delighted.
Congratulations, go and get your trophy. Well done.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Here is confirmation of your result there. Neil McLennan a winner for the first time in 2018 from Luke Cooper in second, Jamie Thorburn third, Michael Eatwell fourth from Matt Rangrido fifth. Brilliant recovery drive from him from, where did he start? 21st to finish in the top five. And similarly, Ross Martin in sixth. Started 19th, so good stuff from there. Then it's Josh Smith 7th, Carter Williams 8th, Nico Gruber 9th, and Joey Foster. A disappointing weekend for the Irishman. He'll look to bounce back at Brands Hatch. 11th place then was the number 45 car. It's the other Smith, Rory Smith, ahead of Sebastian Melrose in 12th. 13th place for James Clark. 14th for Jack Wolfenden, and 15th place for the number 13 of Sebastian Job. 16th place then went the way of Jonathan Brown. 17th on the classification was David Maloney, but of course he didn't finish, so it will actually be the number 20 car of Richard Morris who benefits from that. But the big story really is that we lost Niall Murray. Niall Murray does not score in that race, and he will lose his championship lead, whether it's Cooper or it will be Cooper, I think, who will take the championship lead, but we'll confirm that with you, of course, before Brands Hatch next time out. Here are the highlights of a dramatic final race of the day. Luke Cooper started from pole, converted that into the race lead immediately, but as is ever the case in Formula Ford racing, there was no escape, particularly given how fired up Neil McLennan was, making an outside manoeuvre on Michael Eastwell to take second place into the chicane, something I've never seen before. Cooper did everything he could to hold off McLennan, making a few small mistakes, but nothing enough to open the door, including this dramatic moment for McLennan over the grass at the chicane, which he survived. He lived to fight another day and briefly had to turn his eye to defence to try and keep the cars behind at bay before Fraser Gray had a rotation at the chicane. Luckily didn't get himself beached in the gravel. The lead battle intensified further as we were following Matt Rangrido and Ross Martin's progress up the order, and then McLennan made his move to the outside into the chicane. He forced the mistake at Clark's corner out of Luke Cooper and moved through into the lead. The red flag came out after this shunt for David Maloney, a terrifying end to the day. But the best news we've heard all day is that David is fine. He's in the ambulance. He'll be heading to the medical centre, but he is okay. So there we go. That concludes our racing action here from Knockhill. What a day we have had. Fantastic racing across the board. Who said you couldn't overtake at Knockhill in the reverse direction? We've seen overtaking left, right and centre. I'm already looking forward to my next visit to this neck of the woods. As far as TCR UK is concerned, we're back out at Brands Hatch next time out, and that will be for our third race meeting of the season on June the 2nd and 3rd. Hope that you can make it there. If not, we'll be here to provide the live coverage for that once more. Thank you very much to everyone here at Knockhill, all of the marshals who've had plenty to deal with over the course of the weekend. But for now, for me, Andy McEwen, it is goodbye.